So check out this new Fox News poll shedding light on just how concerned Americans are about the Ebola virus. So here it is. 25% of registered voters say they're concerned about the disease spreading throughout the United States. 34% somewhat concerned, while 23% say they're not very concerned at all. Meantime, the reality of this happening very slim. Scientists call the number of people that one sick person will infect the R value. As you can see, Ebola is far less contagious than more common diseases like HIV, SARS, mumps, and measles. So, time for some real talk with our power panel. Sarah Cooper, advice columnist and comedian, Wendy Patrick, County Deputy District Attorney and Prosecutor, and Lisa Daftari, Mideast journalist and Fox News contributor. All right, Lisa, let me start with you because it's interesting. If you look at that poll that I just read, it's changed since just a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, 37% of the American public were very concerned about Ebola spreading. Now it's down to 25%. Why do you think?
I think the bottom line is that Americans are voting based on how they feel, not based on how much science or medicine is behind their opinion about Ebola. I don't think they necessarily think we're safer. You know, when Americans don't have the facts, they fall into two categories. That's why you basically have, you know, it's a split poll, right?
Right.
So half of them will think, well, it's a bigger concern, and half of them will think, you know what, it's not such a big deal. But the bottom line is that the president or the administration's job is to make people feel safe, because people are not doctors. They don't know, not everyone, you know, has the right information to make an educated decision.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it. Sarah, do you agree with that or not?
I actually think that people are just relieved that Tori Spelling is okay. That was the big thing that everybody was really concerned about. No, but seriously, the news has changed. We're telling people not to panic. So I do agree to some extent. We're also doing something interesting, which is telling them all the things that they actually should be scared of. So now they're not as scared of Ebola, but there's 15 other things that they're scared of.
All right, let's take a look at another poll. President Obama's handling of the Ebola virus. 41% approve and 50% disapprove. And then we're also going to look at this one. The federal government response to the Ebola virus, 48% approve, 47% disapprove. So it's a pretty even split, Wendy, right?
I think so, and you know, I'm really surprised at some of these poll results, because if you look at Dr. Spencer's actions, 12 hours before he was taken away by guys in hazmat suits, this guy goes for a 3-mile run, he hits 2 bowling alleys, takes several subways, goes out to dinner, and then Uber home, and that's while he is feeling fatigued. I can imagine what this guy is like when he has a lot of energy. But I cite that as an example of what does it mean to be symptomatic. That, I think, is what emotionally has the public a little bit worried. If fatigue is a symptom, how do you know?
And is it all because there seem to be so many different guidelines as well, Lisa? We have the Pentagon having a different guideline from the White House, from the CDC.
Right, and you have, you know, all the major crises that we're dealing with right now, whether it's Ebola, whether it's ISIS, whether it's the border, whether it's the economy. People just want to know that the federal government has it under control, because if they're not doing their job, either they're not educated enough, or they're being dishonest.
Who do you think the American public want to look to for answers? Politicians or people in the medical community?
I think they're looking at politicians. I think they're looking at people in the public eye who are having these press conferences and answering these questions. And we're seeing people panic in Maine over this nurse who won't do this quarantine, that it's just 21 days, and everyone is like, why won't she just do this? Yep. And I think that people are really looking at those situations and starting to say, what's going on here?
Although they probably should be looking at the medical community, because you're hearing a lot about, you know, science versus
but the
politics.
CDC keeps changing on what their policies are. So that in and of
everyone
itself
should be on the same page. A friend of mine said her 8-year-old came home last night crying because at school there was a rumor among the kids that you can get it from a handshake.
Yeah. No, I know. There's way too many stories going on out there.
Way too many.
Thank you, Power Panel, very much. So.